everybody, it's Jeff from New York, and we are in New Orleans, heading up St. Anne Street towards Armstrong Park, named after the famous trumpeter Herb Albert. Nah, just kidding, Louie Armstrong. The big white gate we're coming up to is the main entrance to the park, and it's got hundreds of light bulbs that light up at night, and you can see it all the way up St. Anne Street. As we cross Rampart Street, we're officially leaving the French Quarter area of New Orleans and heading into the Treme area. Many of you might be familiar with Treme from the HBO series. The design of the park also led to some controversy, with the neighborhoods of Treme and the French Quarter complaining that there's a fence around the entire park, making getting in and out of the park difficult. Also, some complain that the large parking lots in the back of the park create a flooding issue when it rains, and, New Orleans does flood a lot, and they felt that it should have been left as green space. There's lots of cool statues and art in the park, and all of it revolves around jazz. Just a reminder, this is Cray Cray the Crawfish from Louisiana. He shows up somewhere in all my New Orleans videos, so please help me find him. Be the first to spot Cray Cray in this video and leave a comment below with the timestamp you spotted him, and you'll get a shout out on an upcoming video on this channel. I love trees, and New Orleans has plenty of a variety. The town also puts lightning rods in some of their older, larger trees to prevent damage from lightning storms. The rods are actually connected to wires that run down into the ground, so the tree is safe from damage should it be struck. This tree is just a single example of how big, beautiful, and old the trees are in New Orleans. When we visit other areas of New Orleans, you'll see that the trees have Spanish moss on them as well, especially in Audubon Park, which we'll visit in another video on this channel. We're heading into Congo Square, which is a national landmark, and it's a place where African slaves congregated in the early 1700s to dance and play music. "300 years ago, boy, this town is old, African slaves were allowed to have Sunday off, but they weren't allowed to congregate. However, Congo Square seemed to be the exception, and they met here every Sunday, again to dance, play music, and it was also an open market. As depressing as slavery was, I would give anything to be here 300 years ago when all the music and dancing was going on. That large building that we're heading towards is the Old Municipal Auditorium. It was built in 1930 and holds about 7,800 people. The New Orleans Jazz played here. It's a basketball team from 1974 to 75 until they moved to the Superdome and then eventually to Utah. They kept the name Jazz, although it makes no sense for a Utah team. Mardi Gras crews held balls here after the Mardi Gras parade. And it was a temporary casino, believe it or not, for Harrah's before they opened up their permanent building and casino along the Mississippi in the French Quarter. And you can check that video out on this channel as well. Unfortunately, the building was heavily damaged during Katrina and has yet to be repaired, and it's in pretty bad shape right now. And there's the man himself, Herb Alpert. You didn't fall for that again, did you? It's Louie Armstrong, born in 1901 and died in 1971. Mostly known as a trumpeter, he was also a composer, vocalist, and an occasional actor who was one of the most influential figures in jazz. His career spanned 5 decades from the 1920s to the 1960s during all different eras in the history of jazz, and in 2017 he was inducted into the Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame. Like I said, lots of cool and funky art relating to music in this park. This is a beautiful park. Unfortunately, several areas are falling into disrepair. I'm not sure if it's going all the way back to Katrina, which is almost 15 years now, but you can see that areas of the park are being neglected, especially the water features. The park is loaded with fountains. Unfortunately, all of them are not functioning right now. However, it looks like the landscaping is being kept up. Not that the park's in horrible shape, but I do visit here probably at least once a year, and it gets worse every year. And it's a shame because it's really not that bad, and just a little TLC will bring this place back to its former glory. And as I've seen on many occasions in the past, when parks begin to deteriorate, crime goes up in that park. And I can tell you, as Jeff from New York, there's a lot more going down in this park than leisurely strolls right now. These trees, as well as others around the park, appear to be new, and they're very young, so perhaps the town is looking to spruce up the park a little bit, or perhaps maybe an organization. I also want to point out that there's yearly jazz festivals, Cajun cook-offs, and other events that bring crowds to this park every year. Like I said, just a little bit of loving will bring this place back to its former glory, and it's just steps away from the French Quarter, the town's biggest moneymaker. In the long run and in general, it really is a well thought out, beautiful park. That's the Treme neighborhood on the other side of that gate, and they're absolutely correct. They don't make it easy getting in and out of this park. So I just stopped off at a park bench for a quick snack and some Googling, and apparently these buildings that we're coming up upon are owned by the National Park Service, so it's kind of unclear to me who actually runs this park. Is it the National Park Service or the City of New Orleans? Or perhaps both, I'm not sure. And this is the Mahalia Jackson Theater of Performing Arts, which is located in the middle of Louie Armstrong Park. It was named after the gospel singer Mahalia Jackson, who was born in New Orleans. The theater reopened in January 2009 after being closed since the landfall of Hurricane Katrina. And there's Mahalia herself, or at least a likeness of her, born 1911 and died in 1972. This particular statue was dedicated in 2010. And this is Sidney Bechet, who was an American jazz saxophonist, clarinetist, and composer. He was one of the first important soloists in jazz, beating trumpeter Louie Armstrong to the recording studio by several months. His erratic temperament, however, tempered his career. And I think you would agree, his memorial looks even a little angry. Yeah? And there's good old Herb Albert again. We're going to pass him just to go over this bridge. I just wish I knew where the valve was to all these water features, because I know these waterfalls and these fountains would look beautiful if they were running right now. These are those National Park Service buildings that unfortunately I don't have access to. All of them very old, rich in history, and unfortunately deteriorating. This old historic firehouse is now used for storage by park maintenance. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like, comment, ask some questions, and most importantly, subscribe by clicking on the button on the left. You can visit all of my New York videos by clicking on the top right, or check out my videos on other favorite places to visit by clicking on the bottom right. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around the city.